There is a particular tension that arises when you want something deeply and you are watching for it. You tell yourself to be patient. You remind yourself that things take time. Yet beneath the surface, there is alertness, a scanning, a quiet hope that today might be the day. And because of that hope, your senses sharpen toward evidence. You check messages more often. You read into tone. You interpret small changes as possible signs. This state feels active, even spiritual, but it is rarely peaceful. The nervous system, when scanning for signs, is not at rest. It is on guard. And what is on guard is not receiving. Pause here. Notice the difference between alertness and openness. Alertness is vigilant. Openness is relaxed. Alertness searches. Openness allows. You have been taught to look for signs outside yourself, repeating numbers, unexpected emails, shifts in circumstance. And while life does contain meaningful patterns, the most decisive signs are inward, because manifestation is not primarily a rearrangement of events. It is a reorganization of identity. If identity has not shifted, external signs create temporary excitement, but no lasting change. If identity has shifted, external confirmation often arrives quietly, almost anticlimactically. So the question becomes, what are the true signs that you are about to receive? The first sign is not what happens around you. It is what stops happening within you. You stop rehearsing the worst-case scenario. Notice that. You think about your desire, and the immediate impulse to protect yourself with doubt begins to fade. You no longer instinctively add, but it probably won't happen. The protective reflex weakens. That weakening is a sign. Psychologically, it means the brain no longer anticipates threat in relation to your desire. The nervous system is not bracing. When bracing ends, receptivity begins. Receptivity is required for reception. The second sign is a decrease in urgency. You no longer feel compelled to force conversation toward your desire. You no longer feel the need to explain your vision repeatedly to convince yourself it is real. The emotional intensity around it softens. Softening is not loss of passion. It is stabilization. When something is truly yours internally, it feels natural rather than dramatic. You imagine the desired state and it feels ordinary. You speak about it and your voice remains even. This ordinariness is a sign of embodiment. Embodiment precedes manifestation. The third sign is reinterpretation of delay. Where you once saw delay as denial, you now see it as movement. You interpret silence as neutrality rather than rejection. You stop personalizing timing. Interpretation reveals identity. If your identity is still fragile, delay wounds it. If your identity is stable, delay refines it. When you can encounter a pause without collapsing into doubt, you have crossed an invisible threshold, the threshold of trust. Trust is not blind optimism. It is the quiet assumption that what aligns with your identity cannot be withheld indefinitely. Scripture says, according to your faith, be it unto you. Faith here is not emotional excitement. It is inward agreement. When your inward agreement stabilizes, manifestation has a clear channel. The fourth sign is detachment from constant checking. You stop monitoring your environment for confirmation. You do not compulsively check for messages. You do not measure your progress against others. Instead, your attention returns to your own state. This shift from outer fixation to inner awareness is decisive because what you focus on expands your identity. When you focus on lack, you reinforce lack. When you focus on coherence, you reinforce coherence. So, if today you notice that your attention naturally rests more in your own centeredness than in external validation, that is a sign that you are no longer trying to extract proof from the world. You are living from alignment instead. The fifth sign is increased congruence in small actions. You act in ways that match your desire without announcing it. If you desire financial stability, you organize your finances calmly rather than from fear. If you desire loving partnership, you speak with warmth rather than defensiveness. These actions are not dramatic. They are consistent. Consistency signals that identity has shifted. Identity shift precedes visible reception. You may also notice a quiet joy emerging without obvious reason. Not excitement, not euphoria, just a subtle contentment. Contentment without fulfillment in form is a powerful sign. It means you are no longer postponing peace until arrival. You are embodying the state now, and embodiment now is what draws expression later. Here is the deeper principle beneath all these signs. You receive when you no longer contradict what you desire. Contradiction can be subtle. Saying you want love while rehearsing mistrust. Saying you want success while fearing visibility. Saying you want change while clinging to old identity. When contradiction dissolves, coherence forms. Coherence is magnetic, not in a mystical, exaggerated sense, but in a psychological and relational sense. People respond differently to coherence. Opportunities are recognized more clearly. Decisions become more direct. Timing feels less strained. This is why it can feel as though manifestation suddenly accelerates. But what truly happened is this. You stop resisting. Resistance often hides beneath over-effort. You try to manifest harder because you fear it may not happen. That fear subtly signals lack. Lack reinforces identity. Identity shapes perception. But when you relax into trust, the signal changes. The signal becomes sufficiency. Sufficiency is powerful because it removes desperation from your energy. Desperation repels clarity. Sufficiency attracts it. So if today you find yourself less desperate, less needy for confirmation, less anxious about outcome, pay attention. That is a sign. If you notice that your body feels calmer when you think about your desire, pay attention. If you find yourself speaking about your future without defensiveness, pay attention. If you respond to minor setbacks without spiraling, pay attention. These are internal confirmations. They matter more than repeating numbers. They matter more than random coincidences. They reveal that you are inwardly prepared. Prepared not by force, but by alignment. Alignment is the condition for reception. Imagine pouring water into a cup tilted sideways. The water spills. When the cup is upright, it receives easily. Inward contradiction tilts the cup. Inward coherence steadies it. You are not waiting for something to descend from outside you. You are stabilizing the cup. And when it is stable, reception is natural. You may not control the exact moment form crystallizes, but you can recognize when you are ready. Readiness feels calm. Readiness feels ordinary. Readiness feels unhurried. If today you feel less reactive, less doubtful, less compulsive, that may be your sign. Not a flashing signal from the sky. A quiet shift in you. And that shift is more powerful than any external omen. Because when consciousness changes, reality reorganizes. Not instantly in spectacle, but steadily in structure. So instead of scanning the horizon for evidence, turn inward gently. Ask, have I stopped arguing with my desire? Have I stopped preparing for disappointment? Have I stopped needing immediate proof? If the answer is even partially yes, then something has already been received. You have received alignment, and alignment is the seed of visible manifestation. As we move towards stillness now, let your breath slow. Release the need to look for dramatic signs. The real signs are subtle. They are found in your tone, your posture, your interpretation, your attention. If you are calmer, that is a sign. If you are steadier, that is a sign. If you are no longer begging reality to confirm you, that is a sign. Reception begins within, and when it begins within, it does not need to be chased. It unfolds gently, faithfully, in rhythm with your coherence. So today, pay attention not to the noise around you, but to the quiet within you. That quiet may already be the beginning of what you have been waiting to receive. And as you continue to observe this quiet within you, something even more subtle becomes visible. You begin to notice that your desire no longer feels separate from you. There was a time when it stood in front of you like an object, something you wanted, something you hoped to obtain, something outside your current identity. But now, if you pay attention carefully, you may sense that the desire feels less like an object and more like an extension of who you are becoming. This shift is profound. When a desire feels external, you chase it. When it feels integrated, you express it. Expression carries a different energy than pursuit. Pursuit implies distance. Expression implies embodiment. If today you find that you are behaving in small ways as though the desire already belongs in your life, that is a sign, not pretending, not forcing, but naturally aligning. You might notice that you no longer feel intimidated by the version of yourself who has received. You might notice that you imagine the fulfilled state and it no longer feels unrealistic. That normalization is quiet but decisive. Normalization tells the subconscious that the state is safe. Safety is essential for manifestation. The nervous system cannot integrate what it perceives as threatening. If success feels unsafe, you will unconsciously resist it. If love feels unsafe, you will subtly push it away. If visibility feels unsafe, you will shrink when opportunity arises. So one of the clearest signs that you are about to receive is this. The desired state feels safe in your body. You can think about it without tension. You can picture it without tightening. You can speak of it without lowering your voice. Safety creates receptivity. Receptivity allows flow. Flow feels effortless. Effortlessness is often misinterpreted as luck or sudden breakthrough. But it is usually the result of sustained inner regulation. Regulation is spiritual maturity expressed physiologically. When your nervous system is no longer in fight or flight regarding your desire, you are no longer signaling threat to yourself. You are no longer bracing for loss. You are no longer guarding against disappointment. You are open. Openness is fertile ground. There is another sign that often goes unnoticed. You stop trying to control how it will arrive. Previously, you may have imagined a very specific script, a particular person, a particular opportunity, a particular sequence of events, and if reality deviated from that script, you felt anxiety. But when alignment deepens, rigidity softens. You remain clear about the state you desire, but flexible about its expression. This flexibility is trust in action. Trust does not dictate the path. Trust cooperates with it. If today you find yourself less attached to a specific route and more anchored in the essence of what you want, that is a sign. Because essence matters more than form. Form rearranges, essence remains, and manifestation often surprises you, not by giving you something entirely different, but by delivering the essence through a path you did not predict. The mind prefers control. Consciousness prefers coherence. Coherence allows creative unfolding. You may also notice a subtle gratitude emerging before evidence. Not gratitude forced as a technique, but gratitude arising naturally because you feel internally resourced. You look around your current life and you see provision where you once saw absence. You see growth where you once saw stagnation. You see possibility where you once saw limitation. This shift in perception is a sign of expanded awareness. Expanded awareness precedes expanded experience. When perception widens, opportunity becomes visible. When opportunity becomes visible, aligned action becomes possible. When aligned action becomes consistent, manifestation feels swift. It is not the event that changed first. It was your seeing. So if today you are seeing differently, pay attention. Seeing without suspicion. Seeing without scanning for what is missing. Seeing without projecting past disappointments onto present moments. Clear seeing is readiness. Another sign is emotional neutrality around the outcome. This may feel counterintuitive. You might expect that strong emotion signals imminence. But often, strong emotion signals attachment. Neutrality signals integration. When you can hold the image of your desire without emotional spikes, neither frantic excitement nor anxious doubt, you are centered. Centeredness is power. It means your identity is not at stake. It means your worth is not waiting for confirmation. It means you are stable with or without immediate evidence. And paradoxically, this stability is what allows evidence to crystallize, because you are no longer demanding it. You are allowing it. Allowing is receptive strength. It does not beg. It does not command. It remains. Remaining in alignment, even when nothing visibly shifts, is the final sign of readiness. If today you feel capable of remaining calm, even if the phone does not ring, even if the message does not arrive, even if the timeline extends, that calm is not resignation. It is maturity. Maturity understands that divine order unfolds beyond your immediate perception. Maturity rests in coherence rather than spectacle. And often, it is at this point, when calm is genuine, that outer confirmation quietly appears, not because you earned it through detachment, but because you stopped interrupting the process with internal contradiction. So as you move through the rest of this day, do not look anxiously for miracles. Look gently for alignment. Notice how you speak. Notice how you breathe. Notice how you interpret. Notice whether you are reacting from fear or responding from trust. If trust is leading more often than fear, that is a sign. If your body feels more at ease than it did last week, that is a sign. If you are no longer arguing with your own longing, that is a sign. And the greatest sign of all may be this: you no longer need a sign, because you feel steady enough without one. That steadiness is reception beginning. It may not look dramatic. It may not announce itself, but it is real. And from that steadiness, life reorganizes, gently, faithfully, without spectacle. So remain attentive, not to the sky, not to random numbers, but to the quiet coherence forming within you. Because when coherence settles, what you seek no longer feels distant. It feels inevitable, and inevitability does not rush. It unfolds. And as inevitability begins to feel more natural than uncertainty, your relationship with expectation transforms. Expectation used to carry tension. It leaned forward. It waited. It calculated. But now expectation becomes quiet confidence. It does not strain toward tomorrow. It stands gently in today. This is another sign. When expectation feels calm, you are no longer bargaining with reality. You are participating in it. There is no silent plea beneath your thoughts. There is no anxious undercurrent beneath your prayers. Instead, there is agreement between your desire and your identity, agreement between your faith and your daily posture, agreement between what you say you want and how you show up in ordinary moments. Agreement produces peace. Peace is not indifference. It is wholeness. Wholeness means there is no inner argument dividing your attention. There is no voice inside whispering that you are foolish to hope. There is no secondary narrative preparing you for disappointment. When the secondary narrative quiets, energy consolidates. Consolidated energy expresses clearly. Clear expression organizes experience. This is why you may notice subtle shifts in how others respond to you. Your tone carries steadiness. Your eyes carry presence. Your words carry conviction without force. People sense when someone is no longer internally conflicted. Internal resolution radiates outward, not theatrically, not loudly, but unmistakably. And this radiance invites alignment. Opportunities that match your state feel closer. Conversations that resonate feel easier. Support that once seemed distant appears more accessible. Again, nothing magical is occurring. You are simply no longer contradicting the state you desire. Contradiction was the barrier. Coherence is the bridge. If today you feel less concerned with proving that your desire will happen, that is a sign. You no longer feel the need to defend it mentally. You no longer rehearse arguments in your head to justify your faith. Justification implies insecurity. Security requires no defense. Security simply remains. Remaining is powerful because it communicates finality to the subconscious. It tells the deeper layers of your mind, this is who we are now. Not temporarily, not experimentally, permanently. When permanence is felt, behavior stabilizes. Stabilized behavior creates consistent patterns. Consistent patterns produce reliable outcomes, and reliable outcomes reinforce identity further. You begin to live in a feedback loop of coherence rather than confusion. Confusion once kept you oscillating between belief and doubt. Now, belief is not an emotional surge. It is an orientation. Orientation does not waver easily. It does not depend on daily evidence. It is sustained by inward clarity. If today you feel capable of enjoying your present life without mentally postponing happiness, that is a sign you are no longer holding joy hostage to a future event. You are present. Presence is fertile. Presence allows you to notice small alignments you would have overlooked in a state of urgency. A kind word lands more deeply. A new idea surfaces more clearly. A small opportunity feels meaningful rather than insignificant. These are not coincidences. They are indicators that your perception is no longer filtered by scarcity. Scarcity narrows vision. Sufficiency widens it. When vision widens, possibility becomes visible. And when possibility is visible, aligned action becomes obvious. Obvious action reduces delay. Delay often came not from the universe withholding, but from hesitation born of doubt. Without doubt, hesitation decreases. Without hesitation, momentum increases. Momentum feels like acceleration, but underneath it all is stillness. Stillness within you. You are no longer restless for confirmation. You are receptive to unfolding. Receptivity does not force outcomes. It allows them. Allowance is subtle strength. It trusts divine order without trying to supervise it. It honors timing without fearing it. It participates without controlling. If you notice that you are less reactive to minor inconveniences, that is a sign of alignment deepening. Reactivity signals internal instability. Stability signals readiness. When stability is present, even contrast does not disrupt your identity. You remain the same. You remain steady. You remain faithful. And faithfulness is the soil from which manifestation grows. Faithfulness is not loud belief. It is consistent orientation. It is choosing the same state repeatedly until it feels natural. And when it feels natural, the world reflects it naturally. So as this day continues, pay attention not to extraordinary events, but to ordinary steadiness. Notice if your breath is slower. Notice if your thoughts are less frantic. Notice if your body feels less braced. Notice if your attention rests more easily within, rather than chasing outward. These are not minor details. They are evidence. Evidence that you have become a stable vessel. And stable vessels receive without spilling. You may still desire. You may still hope. You may still look forward. But now you do so without tension. Desire without tension is powerful. Hope without anxiety is clear. Looking forward without fear is trust embodied. If you can hold your desire lightly and yet firmly, lightly in emotion, firmly in identity, then you are no longer waiting. You are aligned. And alignment is the quiet beginning of receiving. Not tomorrow, not someday, but from the moment unity settles within you, remain attentive to that unity. Remain gentle with yourself. Remain anchored in the state you have chosen. And allow the unfolding to continue without interruption from doubt. Because the clearest sign that you will receive is not found in the sky. It is found in the stillness of your own coherent heart. And as that stillness deepens, something even more refined begins to take place. You start to notice that your identity no longer fluctuates in response to minor external cues. Where once a delayed reply could unsettle you for hours, now it registers and passes. Where once a small disappointment could color your entire day, now it feels proportionate. Proportion is a sign of stability. Stability is a sign of readiness. When you are no longer magnifying every event into a commentary on your worth or your future, you have stepped out of reactive living. You are no longer asking each moment to confirm or deny your desire. You are simply living. Living from alignment is different than living in anticipation. Anticipation leans forward. Alignment stands upright. When you stand upright internally, you are not leaning on the next outcome for emotional support. You are grounded. Grounded people receive differently. They do not grasp. They do not cling. They do not collapse into ecstasy or despair at every fluctuation. They remain. Remaining communicates confidence to your own subconscious. It signals that you trust the structure of reality more than you fear its timing. Trust quiets the need for constant reassurance. Reassurance seeking was one of the subtle signs of misalignment. You may have sought confirmation through repeated checking, repeated affirmations, repeated signs. That repetition often came from anxiety rather than faith. Now repetition softens. You do not need to remind yourself as often. You know. Knowing is quieter than convincing. If today you find that you are no longer trying to talk yourself into belief, that is a sign. If you no longer feel the urge to argue with your doubts, that is a sign. If belief feels like a baseline rather than a performance, that is a sign. Baseline belief does not fluctuate with mood. It rests beneath mood. This resting belief creates continuity. Continuity allows life to unfold without interruption from internal contradiction. You may also notice that gratitude arises without effort. Not gratitude used as a technique to attract more, but gratitude is a natural recognition of what already is. Gratitude shifts attention from absence to presence. Presence expands perception. Expanded perception reveals subtle fulfillment already forming. You begin to see that what you thought was entirely missing may already be partially present. A conversation hints at new opportunity. A shift in your own confidence changes how someone responds to you. A small financial improvement reflects growing responsibility. These are not random. They are incremental manifestations of your alignment. Incremental does not mean insignificant. Incremental means stable. Stability is preferable to sudden, fragile shifts. Sudden change without internal coherence often collapses. Gradual change rooted in identity endures. Endurance is more valuable than speed. And yet, paradoxically, when endurance is established, speed appears. Not rush speed, not frantic acceleration, but smooth progression. Smooth progression feels natural. It does not feel like forcing open a door. It feels like walking through one that was always meant to open. Another subtle sign is this. You stop needing to explain your journey to others. You no longer seek validation for your faith. You no longer try to convert others to your vision to reassure yourself. Your conviction is internal. Internal conviction reduces external dependence. Reduced dependence increases emotional independence. Emotional independence creates attractive steadiness. Steadiness invites trust. Trust invites collaboration. Collaboration expands possibility. Possibility engaged with alignment leads to manifestation. Again, this is not mystical exaggeration. It is relational coherence. When you are inwardly settled, you interact differently. Your tone is measured, your body language is open, your decisions are thoughtful rather than reactive. Others feel that. Life responds to that. So as this unfolds, let your focus remain where it belongs, not on dramatic signs, but on subtle alignment. Notice if you recover from disappointment faster. Notice if you speak about your future with quiet assurance. Notice if you are less distracted by comparison. Notice if your sleep is deeper because your mind is less restless. These are signs of integration. Integration is the merging of belief and identity. When belief and identity merge, you stop oscillating. Oscillation was exhausting. Now there is continuity. Continuity feels like flow. Flow is efficient. Efficiency makes progress appear faster. But underneath it is simply coherence. Coherence is the true miracle, not flashy, not loud, but transformative. So continue to pay attention, not with anxiety, but with awareness. If you sense calm where there was once tension, that is a sign. If you sense trust where there was once fear, that is a sign. If you sense sufficiency where there was once lack, that is a sign. And if you find yourself no longer obsessed with the arrival because you are at peace in the meantime, that is perhaps the clearest sign of all. Because peace is not the reward of manifestation. Peace is the environment in which manifestation takes form. Stay in that environment. Remain attentive to your own coherence. Remain gentle with the unfolding and allow reception to occur not as a spectacle, but as the natural reflection of a consciousness that has finally come into agreement with itself. In that agreement, what you seek is not chased, it is received. And as reception begins to feel less like an event and more like a condition, you may notice that something else quietly dissolves. The need to be certain. Certainty once felt necessary. You believe that if you could just know for sure that it was coming, you would relax. But now relaxation precedes certainty. You are calm without guarantees. This is a significant shift. When calm is no longer dependent on confirmation, you have stepped into a different level of alignment. You are no longer bargaining with the future. You are not saying, I will trust when I see. You are saying, without words, I trust because I am aligned. Alignment makes certainty less urgent. You do not need to know the exact hour something will crystallize. You are comfortable inhabiting the state that reflects it. The state itself satisfies you more than the timeline. This is maturity in manifestation. Maturity is not detachment born of disappointment. It is detachment born of sufficiency. You are sufficient now. The desire enhances your life. It does not define your worth. When worth is not at stake, fear recedes. Fear often disguised itself as caution. It kept you from fully inhabiting your desired state because you were afraid to be disappointed. But now you realize that disappointment does not destroy identity. Identity is chosen, and you have chosen. You have chosen coherence over chaos. You have chosen trust over tension. You have chosen steadiness over spectacle. That choice is ongoing, but it is firm, and firmness without rigidity is strength. With this strength, you begin to experience even neutral moments differently. A quiet afternoon no longer feels like stagnation. It feels like stability. An uneventful day no longer feels like delay. It feels like peace. Peace changes the texture of time. Time slows in anxiety and races in distraction. But in peace, time feels full without pressure. You are not counting hours.